Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is, well, kind of fix up on these quads. So I got a couple of these quad bikes, one for me and one for the wife. This particular one's mine. It's KFX400, which is exactly the same as hers, which is an LTZ400 Suzuki. And the only difference is the stickers and the color of the plastic, which it was intended. Right now I can buy a filter kit for this one. It fits this one. Wheels, chain, spark plug, whatever, everything's the same. Brake pads. So this one I think is a 2004, and this one's 2003. So they've been kind of sitting. I zoom around their yard every once in a while, but they get rained on and whatnot. So, and the carburetors, after they sit all winter, they get, if you don't run them every, I don't know, month or two, it doesn't evaporate all the moisture in the fuel, and it sits in the carburetor and gets messed up. Everybody should know that. I know it. I do it every year. I don't know why. So anyway, the carburetor was kind of rusty and kind of messed up. So I just bought a new one. Actually, I bought two new ones because it's the same. And that actually came with a new cable. The carburetor came with a air filter and cable and all that junk. Of course, the cable, yeah, it was no good. It was the wrong one. So I figured, well, I'll just put my old cable on it. It will fit on there, right? And then I looked at it kind of close. It'll focus on that, but you can see that it's all frayed. And the reason it's frayed, I think, is because if they get rained on or moisture or whatever, it just drips through the cable down into this little box here until this box is full of water, and then yeah, it just rusts it. 010459. So 01-0459. So this is the same cable. I think it must have been an aftermarket cable anyway, which we've had these bikes for a long time. And I switched them both to a twist grip, because if you ever driven these things for like all day, your thumb, with the thumb drive, your thumb just wants to fall off at the end of the day. And I don't like falling off thumbs. So anyway, I switched them to twist grips, which I think is a huge improvement, but you got to be super careful. If you don't ride bikes or quads or motorcycles or stuff, you could get in trouble with the twist grip, because it's harder to let off the throttle than with the thumb drive. Anyway, it's not a problem for me, but every time I let somebody drive these things, they, not every time, but they typically crash, which is how this guy got all messed up, because my neighbor decided to borrow it while I wasn't home, which was nice of him, and then he crashed into a tree and just about ripped his nose off. But anyway, I digress. Took the chain off because that was like old, rusty looking, kind of like this guy. So I bought a couple of new chains. Those are probably the wrong length. They're just generic 520 chains. So we'll get this one popped off as well. This one I haven't done anything to. Pulled the seat off. Charged the battery up, even though it was fine. But I did put lithium batteries in, which typical quad bike batteries last about 6 months to a year. These have been here for like 3 years, and I literally put it on the charger, and 5 minutes later it said fully charged. And every time I go out and start these things, it cranks over, and starts up. Because there's no fuel in the carb. You run it till the carburetor is dead when you're going to store it for a while. So you just turn it off and then run it out of gas. Somehow it still messes up the carburetor, so I don't know how, but anyway. That's my procedure, and it doesn't seem to work. So if you have a better procedure than that, let me know. Probably storing them inside would help, but I don't have a lot of, and these things are kind of huge. Like this shop is 12 feet wide and I mean, and 33 feet long. But yeah, these quads would take up a ungodly proportion of the space I have. So anyway, I'm gonna get to popping this carburetor back on here. I already drained the oil. It's sitting over there. I don't know how that works. This looks like a motorcycle engine, but it's not. It's designed to have use in a quad bike, and the difference is motorcycles tilt when they go around a corner, so the sump is just in the bottom of this guy. But this has a dry sump on it, so it has extra pumps and lines, and then there's a tank up here that has the oil in it. So you have to drain the oil out of that and drain the oil out of the case. And then there's a little, this is quite easy to see now that I have all the bodywork off, but there's a little chingadera right here where you fill it back up with a dipstick built into it. So yeah, drain both of those. There's like a little access hole down here in the skid plate. It's pretty obvious once you get under there. And then there's another hole in here, like right there, to drain this guy. So, and then, yeah, there's not too challenging about this. This twist grip is different, so you probably can ignore that. Oh yeah, the other thing is I cleaned up the fuel tank, just sitting over here, and I flushed it out with water to, you know, kind of clean all the schmutz out of there. And I noticed there was like, when I drained all the gas out of it first, I noticed in the bucket that I drained it into, there was like little pieces of colored plastic. So I did some investigating and popped the petcock off. And there's supposed to be like doodads on here, like a screen that goes here. This is the main screen. And then there's another screen that goes on here for the reserve. So this is the difference in height you have between the main running and then the reserve. So, and neither one of these had filters on there. So I tried to buy just the filters and this little gasket here, but turns out you can't buy that. So I just bought the whole petcock kit. So I'll be throwing that in as well on both of them. I'll just do both because when in Rome. So yeah, it's got the little gasket doodle in there and little screens. So we'll stick that on there as well. And we'll get this thing all tidy back up and running, and then we'll do the same thing on this guy. This one also looks like it's a little bit low on antifreeze, so I'll probably change the antifreeze on both of these as well. That one's a little bit higher. So yeah, all you got to do is, so a few of you are probably wondering why the name of the channel is All You Gotta Do Is. And there's actually a story behind it. I don't know what these go to, but it could be the bus getting a new differential. So when I worked at Tesla, I had, 30 years experience doing engineering and machining and welding and fabricating. And so I would come down to the technical area where they built up drive units for test. And I would tell the technicians, all you got to do is, and I explain how to set it up on the mill, or how to weld, or how to do this, or how to do that, or whatever. Unbeknownst to me, I prefaced that with all you got to do is. And so that became kind of a running joke at the technical area where they built up drive units at Tesla. So in an effort to give a little bit of street cred to Mike Hathaway and his team, I apologize for that, but I thought it was funny. So all you got to do. So yeah, we'll get attacking this guy. I also got to figure out how to get all this kind of schmutz off of here. If you take a pressure washer to it, it kind of gets it off pretty good, but and then the stickers go away too, you know. 243 pounds, yeah, that's not going to work in the North American market, but whatever. Oh, look. Pressure wash that off. Canada off highway. Nice. I probably got a new sticker somewhere sitting around that I can throw on there, but okay, so this is the carburetor that came on it, Mikuni, and this is the one that I bought, not Mikuni, which is a little bit concerning, but anyway, it came with this doodad right here, which is the wrong one. You see that one comes out straight and that one's longer, but in the little baggie of extra parts and jets and gaskets and stuff, it came with this guy. So I'll just pop that guy in there like that, and that's really close to the same. It also came with a little lock nut here. So anyway, I kind of ruined this taking it out with a pair of vice grips, but if you're going to take it out, it probably means you don't need it anyway. So I'll just, you can see there's little knurls on there. So I'll just bonk that in with a mallet or put a piece of aluminum on there and knock that in. Alright, so this is always fun. We'll see if we can't get this without 16 tries at it. So that little guy slides in there like that. It's easier to do with two hands as a non-humanoid robot. Put the little hat part on top. And you kind of gotta loop it around like that. And there we go. Well, that's not ideal. See that little, that sleeve is just a wee bit too long. So I'm going to make it shorter. So be sure when you do this you don't snip through the actual cable. You'll know it's quite a bit harder. Probably use a razor blade for this as well, but this is how it works these days. Bolt-on parts don't. So if you're expecting stuff to work right out of the box, you're probably gonna lose all hope for humanity. It's better, but not good enough for me. Snip a little bit more of that off of there. You've ever had your throttle stick? This would be the reason. Don't mess with that. I once had a 67 Mustang Fastback S-Code 390, and the throttle stuck. And instead of hitting the car in front of me, I pushed the clutch in, and then now I didn't have a stuck throttle. I had a broken piston because no rev limiters back then. Anyway, that should fix that. And then this little gasket goes on here. Looks pretty much molded to correct. Sometimes, like that doesn't seem long enough. So what you do is you go like this. Just kind of hold it a little bit bigger for a few seconds. And then it'll hold that shape for a little while, but not for very long. So there, now it sits in there fine. And I can stick this little cover on. And the supplied screws. The other thing that I probably should mention is, see this carburetor here that says Mikuni on it? Yeah, don't throw that in the dumpster. Because if this thing really doesn't work, that's going to be my backup plan. Okay, so funny story. This new carburetor, the throttle goes into this little boss here, and the old carburetor went into this little boss here, which are, I don't know, 10 degrees off. And now this cable crashes into the frame. So I got a couple of choices here. One, saw the frame in half. Probably not going to do that. Or two, bend this little fitting a little bit. Or three, put this on the mill and drill this out and plug that hole. Ah, yikes. Or four, put the old carburetor back on. So, yeah. So the main reason I bought a new carburetor is because this choke thingy, which goes to this little cable right here, it was all corroded and spring was all messed up, and yeah, so there's the spring because it was stuck in there, right? So anyway, that's why I bought a new carburetor. It did come with all that junk sitting over here. So the new spring, the little chingadera that goes in there. Right. So I have all that stuff. Okay, so this is my solution until it doesn't work, and then I'll go to a different solution. So I just bent that. I just put it in my 3-jaw chuck on my lathe and put a piece of metal that had the same size hole in it and just put a crescent wrench on it and bent it. Try not to bend it too far or it's going to break. So this one clears by 1/8 of an inch or something, so that'd be enough. Okay, so I got the carburetor on. It clears the frame rail by just a little bit there. I also got the choke thingy on, and it makes some smooth action. So that's good. And then the little vent thing comes out of the float bowl and it goes down to that little loop there. So that's all tidied up. I'm gonna put oil in it now. I just have the drain pan under there. In case I spill some, it'll just go in the drain pan, but it goes right in there. And it's kind of handy dandy little dipstick thingy. And then you can put regular old motor oil in there, but it should have this JSO, which is, you know, the correct oil for something with a wet clutch. But I mean, I've used Mobil 1 and street bikes and stuff before and never had a problem with clutch slippy, but this is the stuff you're supposed to use, so that's what I'm using. Okay, so this is typical when you buy a chain. You just get the right size chain and it's always, you know, a bit longer than you need. So you just have to cut it, and I'll show you in a bit how to cut it. But you can also see that's lined up on that end. You can also see how much the chain has stretched over time. It's about, I think this is 96 links. I haven't counted them, but I think that's what it calls for. But you can see it's maybe a 1/4 inch. This old chain is like 1/4 inch longer than the new chain. So that's just a tiny bit, you know, 10,000ths of each link is 960 thousandths. Yeah, so it's like 2 thousandths per link or something like that. It's about 200 thousandths different. So anyway, the way you cut this is actually quite easy. You just grind on it until, because the way this is put together is these are just pins, they slide them in and they swedge them. So you just grind it far enough so this wedge is gone, and then this just falls off. I put the one with the master link, and it's got a little clip on here. Always put the clip so it slides on from this direction, because the chain is, you know, the chain is spinning like that. And if something rubs up against it, which I don't know what that would be, a bush or stick or log or whatever, if it pushes on this side, it could knock it off. So you just put it that way so it can't fall off. Alright, so this is the putt-putt. I don't know if it works yet, but oh, that's pretty cool. So oh, does go through just by the skin of its. Okay, so putting this casting back on, just has these little molded in plastic that just slide into there. Pretty similar to most motorcycles. It just slides into a little rubber grommet, and the back has a couple of fasteners on it. So I like to see. Alright, so I was about to put the gas cap on, but I remembered I threw this in the pickle barrel. Well, no pickles in there, but molasses barrel. This little piece of metal here was just covered in rust, and it looked impossible to clean, so I threw it in the molasses barrel. So I'll do a little pressure washing on it and dry it out in the sun. Make sure it's, you know, clear, and then I'll throw that back on. Okay, so I got the battery hooked over here, just kind of hanging. It's a lithium-ion battery, so hanging's okay. It's super light. I'll throw some gas in this thing and make sure she lights off. Probably enough. That's up to like here. Good enough. Alright, so primalize it. Some juice in there. Choke it. Should be good to go. probably guarantee that I didn't push it up here. So she's all back together. She's a little dirty, but I'm gonna find something that takes it off besides pressure washer. And I'm missing a couple of these little snappy things. I have a bin of 1,000 of them somewhere around here. I couldn't find it, so anyway, it's all back. New chain, new oil, new filter, new carburetor, new air filter, new throttle cable. I think that's it. And now I'm going to do the other one. I'll probably just put that in time lapse because it's exactly the same except for it's green. Okay, so this is my version. KFX400, his and hers quad bikes. So this one pretty much needs the same. The throttle. This one, the carburetor works fine. You've started up, it just revs to the moon though, because this is all stuck. And I think it's because this just gets water in it and it drips all the way down. And it gets into the little box on the side of the carburetor and rusts in place. And so, anyway, I'm going to change the oil on it. New filter. Filter goes in here. Pretty easy access, simple. Dry sump tanks down there, same as the other one. And then there's a main tank. And then, yeah, you got to pull all this cover off here so you can access the bolts that hold the air filter in. And then all this junk comes off. Okay, Houston, I think we found the problem. This seems bad. I'm not confused why this doesn't rotate and why the throttle was stuck. So anyway, don't leave your quad bikes outside. Alright, so I did a little bit of workbench tidying here. Not enough though. Dumped all the garbage out of here. So this throttle is just, it's wide open. So yeah, last time I rode it, the throttle stuck and I went boop, shut it off. That was a few months back. Not stuck too bad. Not enough. I don't want to ride a quad bike like this, but definitely got some crunchies. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is try and get this cable off of here. I got a new one anyway, so probably want to utilize. I don't know if that shows up on the camera thing, but it sounds bad. Crunchy crunchies. So, ridden hard and put away wet, huh? That's a thing. I don't know if I rode it hard, but I put it away and then it got wet. So the challenge, I used to store these things in my trailer. But my trailer is in a, if you watch the channel, well, you know where it is, but in between the road and compressor house and stuff like that, and there's really no way to get these into the trailer, or at least if I get them in, there's no way I'll get them out without pulling the whole toy hauler out of its hole, which is, you know, it's doable, but it's like a couple hour ordeal. Alright, so this cable is well and truly a two-piece cable now. Ouch. So I thought this was going to be the exact same scenario as the last one, where I had to just modify this little doodad. But since this one has a throttle position sensor on it, for whatever reason, must be an emissions regulation thing that showed up in a couple of years later, a year later. So I can't use the carburetor I bought for this, because bolt-on parts typically don't. There we go. We'll just pop this thing apart, give it a good spring cleaning. First day of spring, so that's appropriate. Get the compressor fired up over there. And then I'll probably utilize, this gasket's broke and stuff, so I'll take the pieces out of that other carburetor rebuild kit from this guy, which came with the seal and cover and all that junk. So I'll utilize some of that kit. It wasn't, I think it was like $50 for that whole kit, so not too bad. Alright, so let's probably should get a oil drain pan here. So I may have to devise a way to get this thing stored inside in the trailer, which may involve like a ramp or something. The problem is, I make a ramp to get them in there. Oh, that's not pretty. A little schmutzy stuff in there. Unsurprising. But there's even more schmutzy stuff in there. Look at that. That came out of the main jet. Other than that, it looks pretty good though. Not even going to speculate what chemistry that is. Okay, so since I need my oil pan to clean my carburetor, I decided to pop this cover off. Put a new filter in here. This is where the filter goes. Looks a lot like that. There's some schmutz in there. I have to clean that out. And then I popped that's the drain plug for the back, so it's draining the back, the case, and the filter right now. And then once that's done dripping, it's still doing a little drippy there. So while that's doing its draining stuff, I think I'll chop this chain off of here. Now the last one I did, I popped this little cover off, which this is pretty easy to take off. So that's what I did, but you don't have to do it that way. You can just cut one of these links off of here and then put the old link back through it and just drag the new chain around. And I'll show you how to do that, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, this chain's done. And then once you get the new chain on there, you just put the real master link in and you're good to go. Okay, so I got this thing all taken apart, cleaned up. Some carburetor cleaner. And I'm going to put it back together. I threw some WD-40 inside here just kind of as a rust preventative. I don't know if it's gonna work, but can't hurt. Anyway, I tried to use this little guy, which came with the carburetor kit, not with the cable, and it doesn't work because see the counter bore? See that sticks out of there a little bit? The ferrule on the end of this guy doesn't, the counter bore isn't as deep. So that's forced me to use the old one, which is old grungy and stuff, but counter bore is deep enough. And the other thing I had to do is there's a nylon sleeve, same as on the Suzuki, that was too long and the throttle actually ran into it when it opened up. So I just got my snips out and took about a 1/4 inch off it or something like that. Okay, so I got this thing all buttoned back up. It's almost exactly the same as the yellow bike. Do some gas in it. Let's see if it'll fire up. Almost. Let's try some choke. Test drive complete.